Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a new knitting podcast episode and I have a lot of WIPs, so let's just get into it. I do first have two finished objects and the first one I'm wearing. This is the Mila mini shawl, which will be my next knitting pattern, and this is the tiny scarf version. And then as the name suggests, it also comes in a mini shawl size, which just looks like this. When I stretch it from tip to tip, I believe it's a little bit longer than a meter. And I really like it. Both of these are knit on 4mm needles, and then I used a fingering weight yarn held together with a lace weight yarn to create kind of a DK weight yarn, but we all know it's not really a DK weight yarn. But I do think it really creates a nice and lightweight fabric for a little scarf like this. So for the pink sample, I used Jawoll from Long Yarns, held together with Alpaca Superlight from Long Yarns, which I actually think this might be my favorite yarn, and the colors were a slightly different fabric, but altogether I think it created a very beautiful fabric in the shawl. And this is then one of the fabric, like one lace repeat that I have, that is all throughout the one that I'm wearing. And then this one has a mirror design, so it has bubbles in the center and then everything around it is mirrored from each other. So it's not a complete pattern repeat as this one is. So this sample I made also with a fingering weight sock yarn. This is the durable Soqs in just a beautiful golden brown color that I then held together with Long Yarns Zen, which is kind of similar to the Alpaca Superlight, this one, but it's much softer. And I think that's because this one contains silk, and to me things that contain silk are a little bit more scratchy because I think it's just a more rough and coarse fiber. So I will take this off to quickly show you. Both of the little scarves have seed stitch edging, so here you can see. And then this one is the same pattern repeated again and again, and I think it's very cute. And I really love wearing these little scarves. The test knit started technically yesterday. I sent out the pattern to everyone, and that is as far as my finished objects go. I did show it a little bit in my last video because I was announcing the test goal at that moment. So those were all of my finished objects, and now we can get started with all of the works in progress. The first one I've had on the needles the longest, I think, and it's my Celeste Sweater by Petite Knit. And as you may know already, I'm not a big petite knitter or petite knit fan. This pattern just really caught my eye, I think, because I saw a sample swatch for a Honest Garn giveaway where they used really cute colors paired together. And then I started thinking, well, maybe the pattern is not so bad. At first it just didn't pull me in. And I think it did have a lot to do with the colors that they picked out. It's just not my cup of tea. But anyways, I really like the colors that I chose. I think that bright pink in here really gives it a pop of color and gives it a little bit more of a modern touch. I feel like Fair Owl patterns or stranded colorwork patterns like this sometimes tend to look a little bit old-fashioned in a sense. But I think this really steps it up a little bit. So I'm almost done with the colorwork yoke. I believe I have like 4 rows left to do. So I'm really eager to finish the color work and get started on the rest of the sweater. And also I want to do a really fun adjustment with this one and then create a little bit more of a puff or balloon sleeve. Because this may just be something that sounds nicer in my head than it actually is. But we are going to try it out once I reach that point, and if I don't like it I can always frog. Then the yarn that I'm using for my Celeste Sweater is the Drops Daisy yarn. I do think it's going to peel a lot just because it's super soft and I'm not holding any mohair or any type of yarn like that with it, so we'll have to see how it does. My main work in progress at the moment, or kind of my monogamous knit, is going to be my Sweet Sierra sweater. That's how I'm naming this one. So it's my own design and I'm just really loving how this design so far is going. I think I started this on the 15th of January. Then I did a little bit of the back and then I kind of kept it on hold and didn't touch it for a while. But now I really want to get this one done and get the pattern ready as well. And I'm writing the pattern as I go, like whilst I'm knitting it. And it has been such a fun progress and change for me. And I really hope that I can keep that up and continue like that because it makes it so much more enjoyable and pleasant. I also really like the technical side of grading and making a pattern. So I actually really like the change of knitting and then grading and then knitting and back and forth like that all over cabled sweater. And then it has some traditional moss stitch here on the side, which I really love. It's also my first time doing any moss stitch and I really like the squishy texture that it creates. And then this is how the back looks. It's basically the same as the front. And then my goal is actually to finish this Sunday. Today is Tuesday, so I do think it's a little bit ambitious of me to think that's possible. I do have quite a bit of the body to go. Like right now, if I put it up to my body. So I think I have probably like 15 centimeters or maybe even 20 of the body left. Then the ribbing, the collar, and the sleeves. I don't know, but I'm going to try. And then the yarn that I'm using is also Drops Daisy, and then I'm holding it together with a mohair cone. So altogether it's kind of like an Aran weight on 5mm needles, and I'm also really loving that. I think the Drops Daisy shines even more. I'm just really enjoying it. And so far the design progress has also been quite nice and straightforward. I do feel like sometimes I have the tendency to overcomplicate things a little bit, but this one I think is going to be good. There aren't too many charts, not too many pages. Yeah, I think I also needed maybe a little bit of a break after creating the Vivian Cardigan. That was just a massive project. Speaking of the Vivian Cardigan, I have another version on my needles right now. This one is not a knitting priority at all, because I want this one to be finished by the time that the pattern is going to be released, which I think is end of March, somewhere around that time. And I'm basically making another version that is stockinette. Then I'm making this a video tutorial, and then this is going to be a more beginner friendly version, which will be included in a pattern. I did change the stitch counts a little bit, so maybe it's going to have like 2 versions, I'm not sure. And the yarn that I'm using, I wanted to use something that was completely different from the one I made already, which I made in Drops Nepal. But I am using the same needle size, of course, so this is also on 5mm needles. I'm using Viking yarn Alpaca Maya, and it's a brushed alpaca yarn. I believe it's similar to Sanne's Garn Borsted Alpaca or Drops Melody, those types of yarns. And it was on sale, so it was quite affordable, and I really wanted to try it out. There's also quite a lot of yardage or meters in this. It's 50 grams for 160 meters. Usually they say 12 stitches on 10 centimeters on a 7mm needle. And I'm knitting it on 5mm needle. And I don't think it really necessarily creates dense fabric. If you can see, I really like the fabric actually. So I'm not very far right now. I've just finished I think the puff stitches, and then right now I'm at the point where I'm going to do the raglan that kind of goes like that. So there's not too much progress to be seen here. And yeah, I do have to also only knit on this during the day when the lighting is good, and then probably when I knit on it, I do knit on it for a few hours. So at least when I'm making progress, I feel like I am making quite a bit of progress, although things go a lot slower when you're filming them. But I think it will be really good and really nice to have another version, and then just more of a visual for people that are unfamiliar with this type of construction, because with a plain stockinette version, then the construction is the main focus. And I absolutely love this color. It's just like a warm mustardy color, and I don't have any garments that are that type of color, like as far as knitwear goes. So yeah, I have that one in my little project bag. This is the Amy project bag that you can get as a sewing pattern on my shop. Then my next work in progress is another design. It's a new one, and this one I already named, and it's going to be called the Bambi Bow Cardi. And I thought that was a really cute name. So as the name suggests, it has bows, or at least it's going to, because right now I'm at the yoke. This one is the same construction as the Vivian Cardigan. So this is how the back looks in a little bit more detail. It's basically done with increases, and then picked up the fronts where I did some garter things. Then completed the front with these increases, and then picked up all along the sides, and now I'm going to do short rows for the sleeves. So it's going to be a drop shoulder design, but then also a contiguous shoulder design. So there's quite a lot of things happening here. And then of course you also have this lace pearl design. And then around halfway it's going to have another type of design. And then it's going to have a bow at the front and then a bow in the center. And then I think it's going to be really cute. So I'm really excited about this one. I always say I'm super excited about things, but I just am. And this I'm also knitting on 5mm needles. That happens to be the size that I'm feeling right now, I think. And then for the yarn, I'm using Drops Air. So a brushed light alpaca type of yarn in this, well, like a heathered beige type of color. And then to give that yarn a little bit more strength and durability, at least I hope, I added some long yarns Alpaca Superlight, and this is in a cream color. And I really love the lightweight fabric that it creates. This is technically an Aran weight yarn, so for 5mm needles. Then I think Drops would probably use 6 or 7mm needles when you pair a lace weight yarn with it, but I'm just doing it on 5, and like I said, the fabric is completely fine. Now I also think I'm a bit of a loose knitter, so maybe that has something to do with it. I forgot to say, but I'm wearing the Juici Sweater right now by Vert and Rose, which is the one that has a really nice flared sleeve. And she knit that pattern on 7mm needles, but then I had to size down to 5mm needles. I don't really remember what I was saying because I keep having to take breaks because I have some neighbors that are banging on the wall all day. But anyways, that was my new design that I'm working on, that I'm storing in this really cute new project bag that is in my shop right now. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this one? I want to keep everything that I make and it's very bad, so please someone stop me, or don't. Then the next work in progress, let's see what it is. I think this is the last one. I'm going quite quickly, I feel like. The last one is the one that I cast on last night, and I kind of thought that I was just making a hat, like a regular hat. This is what I did so far, just some ribbing. But now I'm thinking that maybe I will make another Hermione hat sample. I did a poll on my Instagram and a lot of people also want video tutorials for the accessories. So maybe I will make that happen with this. And so I think that's what's going to become of this whip. But I originally cast just a free pattern on from Drops that I don't even know the name of. And I'm knitting this in Gazelle Alpaca Air, which I believe is a new yarn purchase. I'm not entirely sure if I showed it in my last podcast or not. But it's this one. It's super similar to Drops Air. When I hold them up together like this, I don't think you can tell the difference of which one is which. Like at all. The only thing that I can tell you is this one is bigger, this is the Drops, and this one is smaller. And then this one has more of a shine to it. But other than that, they are basically the same. So this is all that I have so far. I did this just yesterday, just a bit of 1x1 ribbing. Then I'm doing a little adjustment that I'm doing the ribbing on 3.5mm needles instead of 4, because the entire hat is knit on 4mm needles. And I'm just gonna see how that goes, and if it doesn't go well, I will just knit the Drops hat that I planned, which is 3.5mm needles. Also, I'm knitting this on Magic Loop, which I absolutely hate. So I do think the needles are coming in tomorrow, and then I will probably continue this one. So those were all of my works in progress, and now I do have some yarn purchases to show you. Some of the whips were also yarn purchases, but then of course the yarn has already been used. So for example, this was new. Then also the yarn from the Vivian Cardigan was new. So a lot of new yarn has been going around. But I do have some yarn that has not been worked up yet. And this is going to be for a spring design. It's going to be a little cabled vest, but then that is like open at the front. And I'm going to make 2 samples of that. And I don't really love cotton yarns, so I'm kind of venturing into cotton and wool blends. So this is one that I got. I believe this one is quite popular, but in the fingering weight version. And this is, I believe, Aran weight. So this is the BC Garn Bio Balance, but big. So this is 100 grams, 280 meters for a 3.5 to 4.5mm needles. 55% wool and then 45% cotton. And I really like the feel of this yarn, so I just got 2 of these in a nice neutral color. And then that's going to be the vest. I do hope 2 of these is enough to make that. I'm obviously not sure. But I do think it will be easy to get more of this. And then I have 2 other little yarn purchases. Both of these I thrifted. And I've been really looking at a lot of tweed yarns, but I just haven't really found any. So I got 2 different tweedy yarns from, 2 different thrift stores. The first one is this brown one that has some blue speckles, which I thought were very cute. It says Loden, and then I paid $1.50 for it. But when I pull this up, it does have a little bit of information, so I will check for you. It's 50% wool, 25% alpaca, and then 25% viscose. It's a DK weight yarn, so 50 grams for 110 meters. But what I think I will be doing with this is add it together in a blanket. So the other one that I got is by Rico Design. That was a lengthy name. And this one is just a taupey color, and then the speckles or tweed are more black, brown, and then also some yellow in there. And I don't even know what I paid for this one, probably €1 or something like that. It's 5mm needles, 60% wool, 20% polyamide, and 20% viscose. So it's 50 grams for 95 meters, so it's not a lot of yardage, but it's an Aran weight, so what can you expect? In my last video, I actually showed a bunch of blankets that I kind of consider to be heirloom pieces. And I really want to get a blanket on my needles, but I just haven't decided which blanket I want. I do have the pattern for the Sweet Shop blanket by Laura Penrose, but then when I started knitting that one, I got through half a square and I was just really bored with it. And maybe that's just the whole point of having a blanket on your needles, is just very easy and mindless and comforting to knit on. So maybe that's going to happen, but maybe I will do something else. I can also imagine that if I were to do a lacy blanket with some lace stitch that I showed in my video, that I'm also going to be fed up with it after a while. I tend to knit a lot of other lace or cables or something like that. Anyways, I have a basket full of all of my yarn scraps. Kind of have them categorized by solids here. Almost all of them are fingering weight, so I do want to make a DK weight blanket and just hold them double. All of the ones at the bottom are just hand-dyed yarn. And then I do have a little mini skein that I got for free from my favorite dyer, Wool met Verven. And then I also saw that Olivia and Oliver Fibers, which I've never purchased from, but I'm always stalking her yarns. She's also releasing some mini skeins, and I would love to get my hands on some if I can manage. I think they will sell out very quickly. Then I also have some Drops Charisma left, and then the 3D yarns. That could be a very lovely blanket. I just need to, decide. I think those were all of the things that I wanted to show you in this knitting podcast. I really hope you enjoyed catching up with me and all of my works in progress. There are quite a lot of new ones. And honestly, I want to cast on more, but I'm not going to. I need to finish some things first. I hope you enjoyed the knitting and see you then. Bye bye!